Om Jnanatimandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual masters opened my eyes with the shining torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, Bob, so where we're at, it's been a little bit of a break since we've been reading the verses, but where we're at is 7th chapter, which is entitled Knowledge of the Absolute, text number 6. Text number 6.
Seven, 6.
Yep, 7-6. Have you found it?
Got it, yep.
Okay, let's recite the verse. Etad yonini bhutani.
Etad yonini bhutani.
Sarvanityupadharaya.
Sarvaniti upaharana.
Aham kritsnasya jagata.
Aham kritnasya jagata.
Prabhava pralayastata.
Prabhava prayastata.
Very good. Would you like to read that translation for that, Bob?
Yep. All
Please.
created beings have their source in these. All created beings have their source in these two natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution.
Yeah, so let's just recap a little bit. So text number 4 explains that there's a material nature, and that material nature consists of 8 things. So earth, water, fire, air, and space, or ether, it's known as. They're 5 gross elements, and then 3 subtle: mind, intelligence, and false ego. So that's the material nature, those 8 elements. And then in the previous verse, text 5, Krishna explains that there's a superior nature, which is the spirit souls, which is us, the soul. So that's the spiritual nature. And that spiritual nature, the souls, made up of souls, is superior. It's superior to the inferior nature. Why is it regarded as inferior? Because the spirit souls have the same quality as God. That God is eternal and we are eternal, and God is full of consciousness or knowledge, and our nature is also we're conscious. And God's nature is to be blissful, and our nature is also to be happy, although we don't fully experience that now, because the soul, that eternal conscious blissful soul, has entered into this matter of earth and water and so forth, and temporarily then our normal condition of being in an eternal form and full knowledge and full bliss, that's temporarily, you could say, just covered over. But it's still there. The soul is still there within the heart, that eternal conscious blissful soul, but it's just temporarily covered by matter. But so that's why it's superior, because it has the same nature as God. Whereas matter is not like that. Matter is the opposite. Matter is temporary, it's not eternal. And matter has no knowledge. There's no consciousness there. It's just dead matter. And also it doesn't feel like happiness and distress. It doesn't have any perception of bliss or happiness like that, whereas the soul does. And also there's a difference because the souls have consciousness. they're using the matter. They're exploiting the material resources for their enjoyment. So that's a superior feature, that we're able to manipulate matter. Unfortunately, we're using that superiority of being conscious and exploiting matter for our own enjoyment. So that's where we've gone wrong, and that's why we suffer. Because actually this material energy, as Krishna explains, he says it's my energy. And the soul also, he says, is my energy, my nature. So because all matter and all spirit belongs to God, belongs to Krishna, it should be used for Krishna's enjoyment. So that's a mistake we've made, to take what belongs to God, God's energy, God's nature, and use it for ourselves, thinking it's mine. So we're identifying ourselves with matter in the material world, and we think it's mine. My body, my house, my car, my money, you get the idea. And we're thinking that's for us to enjoy. My money, I'm going to use the money for my enjoyment. I'm going to use the car and the house for my enjoyment, everything. But actually we've made a wrong calculation, because nothing's mine. It all belongs to Krishna, including ourselves. Even not only the material things belong to Krishna, but the soul itself is part of Krishna. It belongs to Krishna. And as it's saying in this verse, that all beings consist of these two natures. So there's only matter and spirit. There's nothing else. There's not a third or a fourth thing. There's only matter, which is made up of those 8 elements. And there's only the souls. There's no other thing. So everything in the material is made up of the material energy, which the soul has entered. So the soul has entered into the material world, and because of our desire to enjoy matter separately from Krishna, so Krishna has sent the soul into the material world and put us in different bodies according to our desires. We have different bodies. Some soul may desire to fly, so Krishna says, okay, have the body of a bird. Some soul desires to swim in the water, to enjoy in the water, so they get the body of a fish. Some souls desire to enjoy on the land, so they may get the body of an animal or whatever like that. So according to their different desires and also their karma, their previous activities, they're getting a particular body. And we try to enjoy these bodies. But actually, both matter and spirit is God's energy, is Krishna's energy. So it should be used for his service. And because we don't do that, then that's sinful. Just like, isn't it, if someone comes into your house and takes your property, that person's a thief, he's sinful. So we've entered into Krishna's property and we're taking it for ourselves. So in that way, the souls in ignorance have become thieves and are stealing Krishna's energy for ourselves. So, and because of that, we're punished, just like an ordinary thief, that they're punished, So what is our punishment? It's birth, the sufferings of birth and old age and disease and death, and natural disasters like hurricanes and tsunamis and so forth, and earthquakes and famines and pestilence and everything, and other living entity. Mosquito is biting us, and the dog is barking at us, and so many things, and some bodily problems we have, we have some sickness or something like that, or some mental problem like that. So actually recently we did some cooking classes, one cooking class, and a marae. So have you heard of the word marae before? Do you know what a marae is?
No, remind me.
Yeah, marae, M-A-R-A-E, is like the Maoris, like meeting place. It's like some kind of structure where they come together. It's like, we call it a hall sort of thing.
Yep.
So the Maori word for like a hall where they meet up together is called a marae. And for them, it's like a sacred place, because they call their ancestors. It's a big thing for Maori's ancestors and that. So they call these, you know, departed spirits and ancestors and that to enter into the hall and like that. For them, it's like a sacred place like that. So we were invited to a marae to do a cooking class. Someone had heard about our cooking and she invited us to come there. And the main purpose of that marae is actually to help young Maoris that have gone off track, and specifically due to drugs, the influence of drugs. So there's one really bad drug, I don't know if they have it in Australia, probably there. In New Zealand they call it meth. They call it meth. So it really screws up with their physical and mental health and everything like that, and they become, you know, very depressed and very angry and violent and they steal, and because it's very expensive. So how are they going to get the money? Usually they become thieves, you know, so they steal, you know, to get money to pay for the meth. So it's destroying, you know, the Maori culture. You know, all this intoxication, different bad habits they have developed, you know, due to the association with the Westerners. Mostly have introduced this to them. They didn't do all that before. But anyway, they're suffering so much, you know. So they're trying to give some positive activities for their youth, the Maori youth, some positive things. So they get them to come and do singing and dancing, you know, because Maoris love to sing and dance and things. And do some cultural activities and useful things, you know, like cooking. Obviously, knowing how to cook is useful. And, you know, just to you know, keep their minds, you know, engaged in something positive. Because like Prabhupada quoted many times, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. So if you don't have any work to do, any sort of constructive work to do, the mind comes up with crazy things like drugs and so forth. So they're trying to keep these young kids. And we met some of several of these kids, and they're nice kids, you know, they're sort of nice, but they're just due to bad association. They've got hooked up with these drugs and that. But, you know, at that point, I think they've got them away from that bad habit. So their naturally good qualities have come to the forefront more, and they're very nice, you know. But you give them the drugs and they become crazy. They become completely crazy. But you take them away from the drugs and they become nice like that. So, but this is like suffering, you know, because of our rebelling against Krishna and trying to enjoy his energy like drugs, as God's energy also, but we're trying to use it for our own enjoyment. Then we suffer. We suffer, and some of them commit suicide. Many commit suicide, and many die of drug overdoses and stuff like that. So because we're misusing God's energy and thinking we're the enjoyer of it, which we're not, then we end up suffering so much. So Krishna is declaring in this verse that both matter and spirit is his energy. It belongs to him like that. And he's the creator of it and he's the destroyer of it. Of course, matter has a beginning and an end, you know, birth and death. So Krishna's saying here that he's the origin of the birth of all material things, and also the death of all material things is in his hands. So wherever there's birth and wherever there's death, then he's the controller of it. Of course, as we learn in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the soul has no birth. The soul has no death. So when it's talking about here in this verse, that know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution, it's talking about matter and the material body. So he is the origin, means giving the birth and the destruction or dissolution of the material bodies. But although the soul doesn't have a destruction, or it doesn't have a beginning, but we are eternally part of Krishna. We're eternally part of Krishna. But it seems like we have a beginning and an end because of being in these bodies. So, but that's the Maya, that's the illusion, that we identify ourselves with this body, which we're not the body, but we're in this body and we identify ourselves with it. So we think that I've taken birth and I am dying, because of that bodily identification. But all these things are controlled by Krishna. The birth of the body and the death of the body, and also Maya, that illusory energy that makes us forget our true self as an eternal blissful soul, and makes us falsely identify with the body. That's under Krishna's control. So the real solution, which comes up a few verses ahead, which we can look at that. The real solution to that, because we're completely controlled by Krishna, both the matter and soul. So the real solution, let's look at text 14 of this chapter. Text 14. And it's talking about Maya, the illusory energy, and how powerful it is and how we can escape the Maya. So would you like to read the English for that one?
Yep.
Text 14.
This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me easily cross beyond it.
Yeah, so this is the way out. This is the solution to all of our coming back again and again in another body, and then being killed or dying, another body. So it's called bhutva praliyate, means we're created and annihilated again and again. So this is all going on under the influence of Maya, this illusory energy, which is under Krishna's control. So Maya is far more stronger than us. So if we think we can take on Maya and overpower Maya, overcome the power of illusion, then forget it, because she's far more powerful than us. Like it's saying here in this verse, she's difficult to overcome. Very durachya, the word durachya is used, which means insurmountable. It's insurmountable. It's pretty much, it's impossible. It's actually impossible to overcome by our own strength. However, there is a way. Although Maya, illusion, is more stronger than us, but she's not more stronger than Krishna. Maya actually is a woman, and she's a servant of Krishna. So she does that. She covers the soul's real knowledge as a service to Krishna. Because these are souls that have rebelled against Krishna. They don't want to serve Krishna in the spiritual world. They want to enjoy without Krishna. So therefore they have been booted out of the spiritual world. And Krishna's created this material world to give them an opportunity to enjoy, separate from Krishna, thinking they are like Krishna, like their God. So, Maya is making that happen, giving us the idea that we're like in control and we can enjoy and everything like that. So she's doing a service. It's not that she hates us. It's not that Maya hates us. It's not that Krishna hates us. They love us. But that's what we want, so they're just giving us, sometimes, isn't it? Children desire something which is not good for them. But, the parents know that, but the parents can't force, doesn't it? Parents can't force. The children desire, oh, mum and dad, I want some drugs. And the parents say, no, it's not good for you. Don't do that. But they still want to do it. No, I want it. I'm going to have it. I want it. So what can the parents do? That they can't take away that free choice that the children have. They have free choice. They can't force, anything. So, and so the parents know that what the children are doing in many cases, but what can they do? What can they do? So this is very unfortunate, but actually we are the cause of our own suffering. We can't blame God, although God is in control of everything. But yet he doesn't interfere with our free choice. So we have some minute free choice, so that he doesn't interfere with that freedom. If we use the freedom to want to love him and serve him, then he'll help us. If we use that freedom to be envious of him and hate him and want to take his position, then he so be it, so be it. He's going to, facilitate that. So whichever way we go, Krishna will make all the arrangements. Krishna will make all the arrangements. Yeah, but if we've had enough, of suffering, birth and death and old age and disease, and had enough of all these bodily and mental problems and so forth, these different miseries, then the remedy is just to surrender to Krishna. So the Vedas are showing that process, how to surrender to Krishna, and that's bhakti. That's what bhakti is. Bhakti is the life of someone that's surrendered to Krishna. And surrendering to Krishna, what does that mean? Let's have a look at that. And the further up in the 9th chapter, the life of a surrendered soul is there. 9th chapter, from memory, it's should be around 13. I think 13 and 14. Yeah. 13 and 14.
Yep, nearly there. Yep, got it.
Yeah, so you can read both of those.
Okay. O son of Pratha, those who are...
That's the name of Arjuna, because his mother's name is Pritha. His mother's name is Pritha or Kunti. Pritha. So she has more than one name. So the son of Pritha, that's Arjuna.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible.
And the next one?
Always chanting my glories, endeavouring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion.
So these are the symptoms of a surrendered soul. That first mentioned is that they come under, once you surrender to Krishna, to God, then you're under the protection of the spiritual nature, the divine nature. So you're not under the control of the material nature anymore, Maya. You're under the control of the spiritual nature, you know, which is the energy of Radharani. So like we say, Hare Krishna. So Hare is the energy of God. Krishna is God. So we say Hare, energy of God, energy of Krishna, and then Krishna. So Hare is female, she's energy, and Krishna is the male, Purusha. So there's the Purusha and the Prakriti. Purusha means the male, enjoyer, and Prakriti means female, enjoyed by Krishna. So if surrender to Krishna, then you come under the control of Radharani, of the spiritual energy. And that energy is called Ladini Shakti. So then we get our real happiness back. Ladini means bliss. So Ananda. So we get our happiness, our bliss back, and our eternal lives back. So when we surrender to Krishna, then you get free from the control of the material energy, Maya, called Mahamaya, and you come under the control of the spiritual energy, spiritual nature, Yoga Maya. But interesting, something we should say is we're never free from control. Don't think also that when I get out of the material world, I'm not controlled by anything anymore. Then I can do whatever I like. No. The nature of the soul is we're always under control. It's either we're under control of Krishna's power of illusion, Maya, or we're under control of Krishna and Krishna's spiritual energy. But our nature is, because we're very small, Anu, that we always need to be controlled. We're always under control because, you know, Krishna is very great, so no one controls him. Krishna is very powerful. He's very great. He's not controlled by anyone. But we are, because we're very small. We're very helpless. We need, protection. We need protection. So either we come under the protection of the material energy, which is no real protection because she's thrashing us, or we come under the protection of the spiritual energy. So that's the first thing mentioned. Once we surrender to Krishna, you get out of the control of the material energy, Maya, and you come under the control of the spiritual energy. But our experience is very different. Like I said, we'll be happy under that. We'll be happy, under the direct control of Krishna and his energy. We'll become happy. And what do we do in that spiritual nature? It says here they're fully engaged in devotional service. So what do we do when we've left the control of Maya? What do we do? Do we just float in space? Do we just merge into the light and do nothing or something, into a sleeping state or something? No, it's not like that. We're fully engaged, 24/7 in service to Krishna. This is the real nature of the soul, that our nature is to serve Krishna. That's our nature. So that's why it feels so good when we do some devotional service. We feel happy because that's our real nature. There's, of course, now we're fully engaged in serving Maya. So that's, you can't escape, so that's our nature, is to serve. It's impossible for the soul not to serve. The only choice is, you want to serve Krishna? Okay, no, you don't want to? Okay, serve Maya. But like I said, you serve Krishna, you're happy. You serve Maya, you're thrashed, and punished. So, but you can't stop serving. And you say, no, I don't serve anyone. I don't serve Krishna. I don't serve anybody. But we do, that, we get hungry. So the body gets hungry. Not we're hungry, but the body gets hungry. So we're forced to serve the body, look for food. The body gets tired, so you're forced to sleep. The body has some sexual urge, so we're forced, the genitals force us to try to satisfy that. We get some greed, we get influenced by greed, and we're running like anything. Where is money? Where is money? Where is money? So we're a slave of lust and slave of greed and slave of anger. Someone interferes with your happiness, with your enjoyment, and you get so angry and you want to destroy them or whatever. So then we become victimized by anger. So we're always serving, if we look at it. Or like Prabhupada mentions, if someone doesn't have some proper master to serve, then they'll serve a dog. And we see that, right? People become a servant of a dog. Take it for a walk, and then it poops, and then you got to pick up the poop with a bag, and you get the idea. Yep. So we become a servant of the dog. So we must serve. It's our nature. It's called dharma. The meaning of the word dharma means our intrinsic nature or qualities. You can't separate it. So Prabhupada explained it like, what's the dharma of sugar?
The sweetness.
Sweetness. What's the dharma of salt? Salty, Salt. You can't have sweet salt and salty sugar. Fire. What's the dharma of fire? Heat and light. So you can't separate it. You can't separate the fire from heat and light. They come together. So what's the dharma of the soul? Service. You can't stop serving. It's just a matter of what you're going to serve. You're going to serve matter and Maya, or you're going to serve spirit, serve Krishna, like that. So the great souls, they're fully engaged in serving Krishna. They stop serving just the dictations of lust, greed, and anger, and pride, and so forth, and they serve Krishna. And then why do they serve Krishna? Because they have knowledge, as mentioned in this verse, because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original, exhaustible. So that's why we do these classes, and why all around the world there's so many classes going on, giving people knowledge. Because this is the reason why we serve Maya and think we're happy, because we're ignorant. We're so ignorant.
Yeah.
What's that?
I was going to say we don't have the knowledge.
Yeah, we don't have the knowledge. So it's really the cause of our continuing in the material world is ignorance. So the solution given by the Vedas and by the spiritual master is knowledge. So what is that knowledge? Like mentioned here, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's the original soul. He's the origin of everything. He's the origin of matter. He's the origin of spirit. He's the original soul. And he's inexhaustible. So he's never going to grow old and run out of energy, or he's never going to die and it's all finished. He's everlasting. He's always got unlimited power, unlimited energy. It never becomes exhausted. Whereas if you serve a dog, is that inexhaustible? No, it's going to die. Yep. We had a neighbor when we were in Newcastle, and she served her husband, and then the husband died. So that broke her heart because her husband got exhausted and died. And then she focused her service on a dog. And then what was the problem? The dog died. And she was lamenting so much, and she didn't want another dog or anything after that, because she just realized it's continuing to break my heart. Every time I put my heart into something, it serves something, and then it perishes, it dies, it's exhausted. So in that broken condition, she was just, by herself, and then, but that's bad too, because then no one to serve. And really frustrated. And I said to her, there's no need for you to lament, because I said you're a Catholic. I said you believe in God. You believe in God. You follow religion. You believe in God. Why don't you invest your energy into serving God? You'll never be frustrated. But the thing is, that most people, they don't have sufficient knowledge of God. They don't know who God is. They don't know where God lives. They don't know what he looks like. They don't know what his qualities are. Hardly anything they know, So how are you going to serve someone if you don't know anything about them?
Sure.
Isn't it? If you say, that, I say say I have a relationship with my wife, and then I said, then someone asked, well, what does your wife look like? I don't know. Well, where does your wife live? I don't know. Where, what does she do? I don't know. So it doesn't, you can't have a relationship. Why did you enter into that relationship? Because you're impressed by the person's qualities. That they're very humble, or they're very tolerant, or they're very compassionate, they're very enthusiastic, they're very clean, they speak very nicely, they're a good cook, whatever. They look very beautiful, handsome, they're strong, whatever. And because you have some knowledge about the person, therefore you enter into a relationship, and then you want to serve them. But this is the problem, why people can't, devote themselves to God, because they don't know enough about God. Therefore, the Vedas is giving us full information about God. This is what God looks like. He has a bluish form and eyes like lotus petals and a beautiful smile, and he plays a flute, and he has a peacock feather in his hair, and he wears a yellow dhoti, yellow clothes, and he has a beautiful Vaijayanti garland that has multiple different kind of flowers that reaches to his feet. And he's surrounded by those devotees that he loves and that love him, like peacocks and cows and cowherd boys and cowherd girls. And he's the supreme dancer, the supreme singer, supremely beautiful. Even Cupid, the god of lust, fell unconscious. It's getting a glimpse of Krishna that is so attractive, so beautiful. And that's the meaning of Krishna. Krishna means all attractive. So he's got unlimited beauty, unlimited strength, unlimited wealth, unlimited knowledge, unlimited fame, unlimited and detachment. So like that, when we hear about these, opulences and qualities and so forth of Krishna, then we become attracted. Wow, Krishna is so beautiful and strong and knowledgeable, and and he's very kind to his devotees. He loves his devotees. I was just reading in the Mahabharata, which is the history behind the Bhagavad Gita, how that all came about, and Yudhisthira becoming the king of the world, and that. So the 5 Pandavas and fighting with the Kauravas and that. So I've been reading about that, and on the opposite side was the greatest warrior on the planet, Bhishma. He's like the grandfather of the Kaurava dynasty. And he'd been benedicted that he's not going to die unless he wants to die. No one can kill him against his will. So he's basically invincible. And he knew every kind of weapon and everything like that. So he's like invincible. So at one time he was fighting with Arjuna, and Arjuna was almost about to be killed. Krishna was driving, as you know, Krishna was driving Arjuna's chariot, and Krishna could see that Arjuna is about to be killed, that if he doesn't do something, then Arjuna is going to die. And Krishna loves his devotees, so, and he's famous for being very affectionate and compassionate towards his devotees and protecting his devotees. So he couldn't bear to see Arjuna being killed. And ordinarily it'd be no problem. Krishna can just pull out his disc and, and chop off someone's head, like that or whatever. But this is a special case because before the battle began, Krishna made a vow. He gave a promise that I will not fight. That I will not fight. So, and that's a big thing, in Vedic culture. If you give your word of honor, if you promise, then you're going to keep it, through hell or high water. So he promised not to pick up any weapon. So that was the dilemma. Bhishma's firing so many arrows and everything at Arjuna, and he's about to be killed. And if Krishna doesn't intervene, then his devotee will die. But he's promised not to fight. But because his love of the devotees is even more important than his own self. For his own self, you've got to keep your word of honor, right? That's for my self, my enjoyment. But he sacrificed that. So he went down. He wasn't carrying any weapons because he's like a chariot driver. He's just holding the reins. But there was a chariot wheel that had broken off a chariot. There was so much stuff lying everywhere, broken pieces of everything. So he picked up the wheel of a chariot and he ran at Bhishma, carrying it like a weapon. And he carried it at Bhishma. And Bhishma had also made a vow that today I'll kill Arjuna, or if I don't kill Arjuna, I'll make Krishna break his promise. So as soon as Krishna picked up the wheel as a weapon, his vow was completed. He didn't have to go any further and try to kill Arjuna. He was satisfied that his word was kept. Okay, he didn't kill Arjuna, but he made Krishna fight. And he was in ecstasy to be fighting with God. For some devotees, because actually Bhishma was a great devotee also, but because he was serving the evil Duryodhana and he'd taken food from Duryodhana and money over many years and that, he became indebted to serve that evil master. So it was like his destiny that he had to fight against, Krishna and Krishna's devotees. He didn't want to do it, but as a matter of duty, he did it. But, his desire was to have that fighting relationship with God. For him, that's like, because he's a warrior, that's his nature. He loves to fight.
Yep.
So he's fighting with, who better to fight with than Krishna? So he was in ecstasy. And it said that when he was firing arrows into Krishna's body, they turned into flower petals. And Krishna felt them like flower petals, because obviously Krishna's body is spiritual. It can't be hurt. But those arrows turn into flowers. So it was like Bhishma was showering Krishna with flowers like that. So, but that's just indicating, the relationship between Krishna and his devotees. And we hear about that and we think, wow, there's no one else I want to serve other than Krishna. Krishna's the best master. He'll never let me down. He'll never forsake me. He'll never forsake me. He'll never give up on me. He'll never let me down. He'll always protect me and give me good guidance and help me to get out of this material world. And no one else will do that. No one else will do that. So there's no better master to have than Krishna. So with that knowledge, then with that full knowledge about Krishna, then the devotee surrenders to Krishna and engages in full devotional service, as mentioned here. And what are some examples of that full devotional service as given in the next verse, in that text 14? Sadatam kirtiyantamam. Always chanting. Always chanting.
This is in the next verse.
Yeah, in the next verse that you read, always chanting my glories. So that's some example of once we have full knowledge of Krishna and we make the decision that, I want to serve Krishna, I want to surrender to Krishna, then we're going to engage, we're going to serve Krishna. And then, but what service are we going to do? What is the service? So that's the most important one is mentioned first like that. So we're always chanting. So that's what a devotee does, how we pass our time. That either we're chanting on our beads or we're singing Hare Krishna while you're doing whatever you're doing. You know, almost always, if you see any picture of Prabhupada, what has he got in his right hand?
His beads.
His beads. You know, he didn't really go anywhere. Even if he's talking with some scientists have come or whatever people have come, he's got his beads in his hand. And in between him talking philosophy with them, he's going Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, very softly, like that. So he's always chanting, you know, or he's got the kartals or the mridanga. In the early days, as you know, the very first chanting when Prabhupada, public chanting Prabhupada did, when he went to America in 1965, and then he struggled for a year, and then he got the inspiration to take the kirtan out publicly. So he went to one park in New York called Tompkins Square Park, and he took a little drum. They didn't have a proper drum even at that time. It was just a small little drum, and he took that drum and he sat down and he chanted loudly Hare Krishna, and people started to join him. So that was the very beginning. I mean, although he came in 1965, but nothing much happened until a year later, 1966, when he took that chanting out publicly, and that the people heard that loud chanting and they became attracted, and some people started to dance, and you can see some of those original pictures of devotees, you know, with long hair and everything, and they weren't fully devotees yet, but they started to chant and dance and like that. And people, he was like the Pied Piper, you know, the story of the Pied Piper. So he attracted people, you know, like the Pied Piper did, blowing his pipe, but Prabhupada did it with chanting Hare Krishna. So that's what devotees always do, always chanting and endeavoring with great determination. So it's not that now that we are in materialistic life, we work so hard, we make so much endeavor to make money and everything like that. We're so determined to get ahead and become rich and famous and everything. But when we take to spiritual life, then we don't have any desires anymore. We don't care about anything. We don't have any desires. It's just shanti, you know, peace. Now I've taken a spiritual life. Now it's just peace. But that's not what we hear here. What we hear here is the endeavoring. And what does endeavoring means? It means hard work with great determination. Endeavoring it means some effort. You're making some effort. You know, like Prabhupada was an old man. It took effort for him to leave India. Can you imagine? We can't even imagine. You know that. Like, how old are you, Bob? If I may ask.
I'm 78 in May.
78 May, wow, awesome. So Prabhupada was nearly your age when he just started.
When he left India.
And he all by himself with no support, no help, no money. He only had like $8, 40 rupees. You know, that was scary. And then he had 2 heart attacks on the ship over. So it wasn't easy. It's a lot. He was a devotee of Krishna. It was all spiritual energy, and it's all just peace and shanti. No, it was so much hard work. It was hard work even for him to get a ticket. He got a free ticket with the ship. He had to sit on the doorstep of the proprietor of the Skindia ship company. Her name was Srimati Maraji. That was the name of the owner of the ship company. So he had to wait on her doorstep, and she ignored him to begin with, but he was so determined that he's going to get a ticket to America that he didn't leave that doorstep until he got what he wanted, which is a free ticket. So eventually she surrendered because she tried to discourage him. Prabhupada, you're an old man. I mean, she respected him as like a saint, you know, as a Swamiji. She said, you're going to die. If you go there at your advanced age, you're going to die. You're not even going to make it there. And that nearly happened. He nearly did die, 2 heart attacks. But he was determined that his spiritual master ordered him when he was at a young age that you're an intelligent young man. I want you to go to the West and preach the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You know, this will do good for you, and it'll do good for everyone.
And he really struggled for 12 months, didn't he?
Yeah, he fully struggled. I mean, it was struggled until he passed away in 1977. But It was a complete struggle the first year, and means no good results. I mean, it was a struggle all the way through, but later on, after the first year, there was lots of good results coming, but it was still struggling. Even for like to get Bombay Temple, it was a battle, and so many battles. Some of his disciples went against him and went crazy. You know, his god brothers didn't support him. In fact, they went against him and tried to spoil everything, his own god brothers. We can't, if we had 1/10 of the obstacles that Prabhupada had, we would collapse, you know, just 1/10. But he was just unstoppable in his determination. And so that's what it's like, you know, for the soul in this. Once we surrender to Krishna, then we have very strong desire to serve Krishna. And if there's any obstacles, well, we just try our best to push through. And if we do fail, well, then it's not our fault, because no one can say we didn't try our best.
Yeah.
That's the thing, you know.
And no doubt Krishna sent the right people to him at the right time.
Of course, yeah. That's the thing, you know, that half of the work is our efforts, our endeavor, but you can't do it by yourself. The other half is God's mercy,
yep.
God's grace. You know, even in Christianity, we hear that, right?
Yep.
That one thing is faith without works is dead. I think it says something like that. So just having belief, but no, there's no activity, that's not complete. But then also it said, you know, you need your grace, that you need the grace of the Lord. So that's 50% is our endeavor, our work, and the other 50% is Krishna's mercy to help us. He reaches down and picks us up, you know, but we have to make an effort. It means Krishna is not going to deliver us from the material world while you're sitting in front of the TV and, you know, sleeping and drinking beer or doing nothing. Yep. You know, Krishna is going to deliver us from the material world when he sees we're very sincere in serving him, working for him. We don't care about ourselves, and, you know, we're trying to just please him and sacrificing our own happiness, our own enjoyment. You know, and Krishna becomes impressed. Wow, this devotee is really sincere. You know, Bob's really sincere. He's trying so hard, even though there's some obstacles there with age and health and so forth or whatever, but he's really trying, you know. So then Krishna will help. Krishna will send devotees to help you like that, and that's what happens, you know. And Krishna gives us intelligence in our heart, what to do and what not to do and everything like that. So that the two things come together. You have to make the effort, the endeavor. But that's not enough. Just by your endeavor, you can't, because like I said, Maya is so much more powerful than us. Doesn't matter how much you endeavor, you know, by yourself, you're not going to get anywhere. But then what we have a great hope, the devotees have a great hope in their heart that, let me just try to serve Krishna and Krishna will help me. Krishna will be pleased and he'll help me. And the devotees like begging, you know, for Krishna's mercy. That's what, you know, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is actually a prayer. We're begging Krishna, please give me some service. Please, I don't want to serve Maya anymore. That's what the Maha Mantra means. You know, I've had enough serving Maya. I want to serve Krishna. Please take me under your shelter. I've been under the shelter of Maya for so many lifetimes and I've suffered repeatedly. Now I want to surrender to you and get free from Maya. Please protect me. So that's what it's a prayer. Prabhupada said it's a prayer. We're asking Krishna for service, and also we're asking Krishna to protect us from the powerful Maya, like that. So that's different than what a lot of New Age spiritual philosophies say. A lot of the New Age philosophies say once, you know, you become a spiritual person, then you're just like floating and everything is easy and there's no more problems. But no, in reality, it's not like that. It's not like that. However, even though the devotee has still maybe many obstacles and problems in their life, but because they're fully depending on Krishna, then they're happy. That as long as Krishna's happy, I'm happy. Even though physically I'm going through some problems or whatever like that, you know, I don't care. But as long as Krishna's pleased by what I'm doing, then I'm happy. So We never saw that Prabhupada was, unhappy. He was always in bliss. Even though he had so many difficulties. He saw those difficulties were just, part of what he had to go through to serve Krishna. But his pleasure was in serving Krishna. So devotees get great bliss, great enjoyment from always chanting and working hard to serve Krishna like that. And another thing mentioned what a devotee does in their life is bowing down before me. So like when we go to a temple, right, that you see that everyone bows down when they go to a temple. So it means in that bowing down, why do we do that? This is a symbol of humility, that we're the servant, the servant, when the servant comes before the big master, the servant offers respect. A small respect is like this, just folding your hands, that's you're respecting, namaste.
Yep.
Namaste. So that's respect, you respect someone as your master. And more respect is you put your head on the ground. I see myself below your feet. I'm like the dust of your feet, Bob. I'm bowing down, and I'm as low as the dust of your feet. So, and you're my master. So, you bow your head to your master. And offering even more respect is fully lie flat. That's called dandavat. So not just putting your head on the ground.
What's it called?
Dandavat. Dandavat. I'll say that. Just tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
But it's dandavat means like a stick. So you're fully lying down like a stick, like a rod. So that's D for door, A for Arjuna, N for Nityananda, D for door, A for Arjuna, V for victory, A for Arjuna, T for triangle.
Got it.
So that's dandavat. Fully lying down like a stick, offering respect, so we offer that respect to Krishna when we come into the temple like that, when we come before the spiritual master or some senior devotees like that, we offer our obeisances like that. So to offering respect is very important, that we feel humility. This person is much greater than myself and I'm very small, so we should offer respect to them. Very disastrous for us is pride. So we're all very puffed up, very proud. We say puffed up means proud. So we're very proud. How do we break down that pride, that false ego, that we think we're very big? I'm very important. I'm very big. So we need to break that, crush that pride. So we need to learn humility. So the spiritual master teaches us that you're just a tiny soul, 1/10,000th the thickness of a hair in size. You're very helpless. You're very dependent on Krishna. You need Krishna's mercy. So they teach us to become very humble and break down that false ego, that pride that we're thinking we don't need God. We don't need the spiritual master. I can do all right by myself like that. I can get free from Maya, by my own effort like that. So we need to practice. So to develop a quality, you actually need to do some activities that demonstrating that. You can't just think about it. Oh, I'm humble, I'm humble, I'm humble, I'm humble. Yeah, you actually want to engage your body in that activity of humility, which, like for example, is bowing down. So it's not enough just to talk about humility. You need to actually practice the humility. And Prabhupada indicated, one devotee said, that, he wasn't a devotee in the beginning, he was just a new person came. He asked a question in the class, Swamiji, I see that everyone's bowing down to you, but I don't feel like bowing down. I feel that it would be artificial to bow down to you without having that respect. I don't feel that respect and that I should bow down to you, humble myself. I feel it would be much better to wait for the feeling to come, to wait for the feeling of respect and, to feel like bowing down before this great person like that. When the feeling comes, then I should bow down. And he said, is that correct? Wait for the feeling first and then do the activity. Or do the activity without having the feeling. And Prabhupada said, no, you should bow down and then the feeling will come. But if you don't bow down, the feeling will never come. So that's very important. So even like anything, you could take that. Oh, when we love Krishna, then we'll chant Hare Krishna. What's the point of chanting if you don't have any love for Krishna? Sure. No, that's not the process. You have no love for Krishna, but you must chant. And by chanting repeatedly, then the love for Krishna will come. But if you don't chant, you'll never love Krishna. Never. Like that. Krishna will be pleased when he sees that we're making some effort, some endeavor to chant, and he'll flood our heart. He'll remove all this lust, greed, and anger from our heart and put some love in there. When he's pleased by our, like it said, right? Actions speak louder than words. I can say to my wife, I love you, I love you, I love you. But she's going to say, well, okay, you keep saying you love me, but do something. Give me some flowers. Make something nice for me. Take me out somewhere. And no person's going to be satisfied. They're saying, oh, Bob, I love you so much, Bob. But they never do anything, and this has no meaning, But and the way you show that can be different ways, like we try to give people knowledge. That's our love. We cook for people and feed them, like the cooking class and things like that. You got to do something, and then that by engaging our senses like that, then that will have a purifying effect, on our mind and then the intelligence and the soul. So gradually become purified. Because what you do with your body, that will affect what's in your mind. And then when the mind becomes purified, that will affect the intelligence, and then the intelligence purified, then it affects the soul. So when you start with the body, with the senses. So the first recommendation to develop self-realization begins with the senses. Begins with the senses. And that's at the end of the third chapter. Third chapter around text 39, 40, no, 40, I think 41, no, 42. Okay, chapter 3.
Yep, got it, 42.
Oh, no, not that one. 40, what was 41?
41?
Yep.
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm having trouble separating the page.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Therefore, Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, in brackets lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. It's so true.
Yeah, so this is how we got ourselves in this mess, that we've been acting with our senses for sense gratification, which means lust. Lust means the desire to please our own senses. So, sex, drugs, rock and roll, eat, drink, and be merry. So we've been acting for that. And because we've been acting for that, our mind has become contaminated by that lust.
What a mess we got ourselves into.
Yeah. But all we need to do is reverse that. Okay, I got myself into this mess by acting for sense gratification. Now I can get myself out of the mess by acting for Krishna's sense gratification, which is love, by acting for Krishna. So I was acting for Maya, and that's what got me here in this mess. But if I act for Krishna, that'll get us out of it. So important also, and that's a lot of spiritual New Age philosophies will say like that, that, just give up all your activities and just, just think about spiritual things or whatever like that, No, that's not enough. You can't just engage your mind and neglect to engage your senses. You have to engage all of your senses. The mind is also a sense, a subtle sense. So we want to engage not only our thinking about Krishna, which we do, like when we chant Hare Krishna, right? Thinking about Krishna, but also even like when we chant, we engage our hands with the beads and our tongue. We're not just doing silently either. Like some people will say that, silent meditation, but that's not as good because you're engaging less senses. It's just in the mind, right? Now I'm chanting Hare Krishna in the mind, but actually that's not recommended because you need to engage more senses. Therefore, we use our tongue, Hare Krishna. And because you're doing it verbally, it's also engaging your ears. Then you hear that. If you do it silently, you're not engaging your ears either.
Sure.
And this neither. So, and then you chanting on beads also, you're playing a drum or some cymbals or clapping, even clapping is great. You're engaging your senses, your touch and your hands and everything. So as much as possible, we want to engage everything we can in Krishna service. It's not enough just to think about spirituality or like that, or believe in Jesus or something like that. They say that, right? All you have to do, it doesn't matter if you're sinful, just believe in Jesus. But that's not enough. Okay, yeah, it's good. Yeah, you should believe in Jesus. But alongside that, you need to act in a way that Jesus will be pleased. Like thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, love thy Lord with all thy heart, and like that. So we should do, engage our body, in spreading the gospel, preaching, whatever like that. So we have to do some activities. It's not just enough just thinking about something like that. You need to engage because whatever you're doing with your body, that will go into the mind. That's the problem, Sure, that's great. They go into church on Sunday, fantastic. But then on after they leave the church, what do? They get together and have a drink.
Sure.
So that's immediately, I mean, they got some plus points and made some advancement, but then they went backwards because they did something wrong with their body. They sat together and had their beef, their beef for meal, and they drank beer and whiskey. So and then they had sex with some girlfriend, so and then they went to the casino, or bought some lotto ticket or whatever.
Yep.
So they just engaged in sinful activities. So that what that does when we break these 4 regulated principles with our body, that immediately contaminates our mind with this lust and greed and anger and so forth like that, and bad karma, and you're going to get a reaction. You use your body for some bad thing, killing animals or whatever, then that animal's going to get a chance to kill you in future. So immediately you get locked into bad karma. Now I'm eating the animal, but in the next life, I'll take birth as the animal. The animal will take birth as a human, and then I'm the one in the slaughterhouse, and it's killing me. So if you do any wrong actions, bad karma with your body, then immediately locks you into this vicious cycle of birth and death like that. So what's recommended in the very beginning of spiritual life, we have to, be very careful just to engage in pure activities, just in very purifying activities. And the most purifying activities is devotional service. So we engage in devotional service with our body, with our mind, with everything, like that. So that's the recommendation there. Does that make sense? Would you like to say anything about that?
No, I understand all that.
Okay, so let's go back to our verse for today and read the purport. So 7th chapter, text 6.
Yep, bear with me.
Yep.
Okay. All created beings have their source in these 2 natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. That's what we read earlier.
Yep, that's what we read earlier. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the sign that we're still under the influence of the material energy. The sirens going off. Suffering is there. Mm. In the spiritual world, there's no sirens.
You don't hear them?
Yeah, I can hear the sirens here.
No, no. Where you are, you don't hear them.
No, because we live in like a dead-end forest area. There's no ambulances, no police.
Beautiful.
Nothing come this way.
Yep. How nice is that?
Yeah, that's good. But still, we should remember we're in the material world. We don't want to get carried away by there's no sirens and think we're free from problems. No, we have our own problems. Like my health is not very good today.
Oh, you can't, not from past problems.
No, I think I must have eaten something didn't agree with me in the last day or two, and my stomach has been messed up, so I haven't eaten today because I'm just feeling like really upset stomach. So even though there's no sirens, but I'm not free from suffering. So we have to take shelter of Krishna. So we take shelter of the Bhagavad Gita, in our miserable.
So it's only been since this morning?
Yeah, since this morning. After I woke up, shortly after, I started to feel very uneasy in the body. So yeah, we just taken the advantage to read the whole day pretty much. I've been reading the whole day and did some chanting, of course, first, and then reading. And I can't do all my work outside today, but that's okay.
Yep. Oh, I hope it passes.
Yeah, it'll pass. It'll pass. Just like the sirens have gone, isn't it?
Yep.
It's like the sirens have gone. So yeah, that's what we realize, that it's all temporary. Happiness is temporary in the material world and suffering is temporary. So in that way we can tolerate them. We just have to tolerate these temporary phases, sometimes very happy, sometimes sad, like that. But we don't want to focus on that too much. We want to keep our focus on devotional service. Prabhupada, many times he'd be very sick, but he would still give the class. He would still meet with people and talk with people. And he was very sick, but he still kept on with his devotional service. So that's what we want to try to work on. That is, it doesn't matter what's going on with the body and the mind or whatever, but we just try to keep our devotional service going as much as possible. Of course, if the body is very bad condition, then maybe even you can't chant, or whatever. So, and I experienced that when I had my appendix burst, that I couldn't do anything really. But then, like I said, you just have to depend on Krishna. We're helpless. Now, that's the humility.
Yeah.
That without your mercy, Krishna, I can't even chant. I can't chant. I've had times when my health has been so bad in my life that I can't even chant, So we're completely, that's when the humility comes out more, which is good. Sometimes Krishna crushes our pride. We think, I'm a big devotee or whatever like that. And then one little bug enters your body and you're completely knocked out. So like that. So that's also a blessing that the devotees, are kept humble, and they're always taking shelter of Krishna. Krishna save me. Whenever the demons would come to Vrindavan, when Krishna was on the earth, whenever the demons would come and the demons would be attacking all the Krishna and all the devotees would call out, Krishna save me, Govinda, hey Govinda, hey Gopal. And they would call out to Krishna and Krishna would save them. So that's good. Some difficulties in life, it forces us to take shelter of Krishna more.
One of the first things you taught me was you have no control.
Yeah. Yeah, helpless. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's read the purport.
All right. Everything that exists is a product of matter and spirit. Spirit is the basic field of creation, and matter is created by spirit. Spirit is not created at a certain stage of material development. Rather, this material world is manifested only on the basis of spiritual energy. This material body is developed because spirit is present within matter. A child grows gradually to boyhood and then to manhood because that superior energy, spirit, soul, is present. Similarly, the entire cosmic manifestation of the gigantic universe is developed because of the presence of the supersoul, Vishnu. Therefore, spirit and matter, which combine to manifest this gigantic universe form are originally two energies of the Lord, and consequently, the Lord is the original cause of everything. A fragmental part of and parcel of the Lord, namely the living entity, may be the cause of a big skyscraper, a big factory, or even a big city, but he cannot be the cause of the big universe. The cause of the big universe is the big soul, or the super soul, and Krishna, the Supreme, is the cause of both the big and the small souls. Therefore, he is the original cause of all causes. This is confirmed in the Katha Upanishad. Nityo Nitya Nityanam Setanas Setananam.
Yeah, when you see a C, imagine there's an H there.
That's
So
right,
say
cha.
cha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. So this is very important point mentioned in this purport. And this is what the scientists in that have misled us, the masses of people, that they say that life comes from matter. But this is a big mistake. And that's what's caused, the masses of people to become atheistic. And they think there's no God, there's no need for God. That we're in control of matter. We can just combine matter together, and life comes from that. But so it's not that life comes from matter, but it's the opposite way around, the reality, the truth, that matter comes from life. Because the soul is there, then the matter develops. Because the soul is within the embryo in the womb, that embryo grows and develops, changes. And because the soul is there and that, then it pops out after 9, 10 months. And, then grows from boyhood to youth to old age and like that. That's because of the presence of the soul. It's not just that you combining the semen of a man in the womb is injected in the womb of a woman. And just because, the semen meets with the ovary and everything like that, and then presto, life comes out of that. No, it's not. It's more than that. That's just the external mechanics. The actual cause of the body developing is not just combining the semen with the ovary. The actual cause of it developing is that there's a soul. There's an eternal spiritual soul in that semen. So the man has injected that soul into the womb of the woman. And because the soul is there in the ovary, then a body starts to grow. The body starts to develop. And as soon as the soul leaves the body, at any stage of development, what do we call that? Sometimes, right, they commit an abortion, right?
Yep.
So, or sometimes a child dies, at any age, at childbirth. Sometimes someone dies at childbirth, or 1 year, 10 years, 15 years, whatever. But what is death? Death means the soul has left the body. That's what death is, And as soon as the soul enters matter, then changes take place. It appears that the body is growing. Why growing? Because the soul is inside. If the soul leaves, like I said, no more growing. It said there's 6 transformations that are taking place when the soul is present within a body. So that's important to know, because this is how we know that a soul is within matter, when these 6 things take place. So the first one is birth. So nothing can take birth without a soul. The chicken can't take birth, the dog can't take birth, the pig, the fish, the bird, you can get the idea, the human. It's because the soul is there. It's because the soul is within that egg that is born into a chicken. If there's no soul, it's not just, you know, the semen from the rooster and the hen, and that's enough for a chicken to pop out. If it was enough, and this is what Prabhupada said to help us understand that this is wrong, to think that life comes from matter. He said, well, if you say that life comes from chemical combination, we'll give you all the chemicals that are in the egg. You know, it's got some hard substance, right, a shell, calcium, and it's got some white substance, which you can find that out. It's not hard. You can find out what the shell's made of. You can find out what chemicals the white stuff's made of, and you can find out what that egg yolk, that yellow stuff's made of. So we'll give you all the chemicals, Mr. Scientist. We'll give you all those chemicals, and you make a chicken come out of it. But have they done that? No. They never created any life. Never created any life. If that was true, that life is generated from material combination, from chemicals, then we should be able to produce life. But we can't. We can't produce life.
Sure.
So it's because the soul is present. So like I said, anything that was a soul in it, it takes birth. That's the first transformation. Yep. The first change is taking place.
Yep.
The next one is growth. So it seems like the body is growing. Actually, Prabhupada said it's not growing, it's changing. It's not the body is growing, it's changing. And, you know, we have that picture, right? Famous picture in all the books pretty much of the reincarnation, you know, the changing bodies. So if you look at that picture, that it's not that the body's growing, but it's changing. You know, so you have a boyhood body and then a youthful body and a middle-aged body and an old body that's like that, you know. So imagine you have a car. One day you change the left-hand front tyre. Another day you change the left-hand right tyre. Another day you change the seat covers. Another day, you get the idea. Yep. Another day you change the paint job from green to blue or something. You know, so it's not that the car's growing. Isn't it?
Change.
The car's not growing, it's being changed. So also the body is not really growing, but like the old cells are dying. And then new cells are appearing, are taking birth. So, you know, we know that, right? You know, the old skin cells fall off, and that's why our house gets so dusty, right? A lot of it's to do with our own body, you know, bits falling off. All that, most of that dust is our own skin, you know. So, and then new skin cells are generated. So actually the body's not growing, it's changing. So birth and then growth,
yep.
Change, you could say. And then reproduction. So without the soul being present, there's no reproduction. You know, you can't have a male and female in any species come together in sexual combination or whatever without a soul being present. You know, like two bricks don't have sex. There's no soul there, you know, or two bits of wood or two nails or anything, because there's no soul. But, you know, two souls come together, one in a male body, one in a female, then there's reproduction.
Yep.
So that's because the soul's there. And you put a dead female body together with a dead male body, there's no sex. Even though you just you stick the male and the female dead bodies together, you're not going to get anything come out of that, you know, because there's no soul. So that's, you know, birth, growth, reproduction, then it maintained for some time. That's the fourth one. So, you know, things go, you could say there's an upward curve, then a flat curve. So that's like, you could say, maintenance. You know, say, we call that midlife, right? Say, you know, say maybe the body's not growing anymore, but it's not deteriorating yet. So that is your midlife, right? Yep. Same, I don't know when that is, you know, different for different people. But like that, same, like that. There's a midlife where you're not growing anymore, but you're not going downhill yet. So that's the fourth one. And the fifth one is downhill. So that's dwindling. So dwindling. Birth, growth, reproduction, maintained, You're not up or down, maintained, and then downhill, dwindling, and then the sixth one, of course, is death. So these 6 transformations of matter take place because of the presence of the soul. So because the soul is within this body of matter, it changes, things happen to it like that. And also Prabhupada's saying here, because the universal soul, he says what does he say? The supreme soul. What does he say? He uses an interesting word. The presence of the super soul Vishnu. Oh, the big soul. Yeah, he says the cause of the big universe is the big soul or the super soul. So because this tiny soul is within this body, things happen. It talks, it walks, it moves, and everything. So also because this big soul, the super soul, is within the universe, is entered in the universe, the whole universe goes through these things. It's created, it begins, has a beginning point. The universe has a beginning point. Why does it have a beginning point? Because Krishna entered into it. Just like when we entered into this material body, it started to come alive. Actually, the body is never alive. Even now, right? This body is dead. It's just dead matter. At no point in its existence is matter alive. Matter is always unconscious, it's just dead matter. But it seems to be alive because the conscious soul is inside, and like I said, when the soul leaves this body, we see it for what it always has been. It's just a dead body.
Just matter. Yeah.
It's like when you don't have a driver inside the car, does anything happen? The best car, take the best car, whatever it is, a Mercedes, Lamborghini, whatever like that. But there's no driver then. How useful is it? It's useless. It won't do anything.
Yep.
It doesn't move, doesn't make any noises, no lights, nothing. But as soon as the driver gets in, then it's all happening, because it's the real thing is the driver. There's a conscious entity enters into the matter. So this body, Krishna compares the body to a yantra, to a machine. Yantra means machine. So this body is like a car. It's a machine or a dress. In one place, Krishna explains the body, he compares it to like a dress. Just also, like this clothes, if I don't get into these clothes, nothing happens to the clothes. There's no moving or anything. But as soon as I enter into these clothes, it seems like the clothes But anyone that has knowledge knows it's not the clothes that are alive.
Yep.
It's the person within the clothes.
Yep.
So the same thing. It's not the car that's a living thing, but it's the driver that's the living thing. So in the same way, we enter in this body, then it comes alive. It looks like it comes alive. And Krishna enters into the universe and it starts to do stuff. It gets created and it develops and then it dwindles. And actually now, at this point in time, Lord Brahma is half through his life. So the duration of Brahma's life, the first created being in the universe, his name is Brahma. So he's the secondary creator. He was created by Vishnu. So he's the first created being, and he generates all the different species of life. So when he dies at the end of his 100 years, which is a lot more of our years, but when he dies, the universe is annihilated. That's destroyed.
When
so
you
he's
say,
actually,
sorry,
yeah.
Can I just ask, did you call him Brahma or Rama?
B for Balaram, Brahma, Brahma, with a long A on the end, Brahma. Whereas the soul is called Brahma, short A, Brahma. Same spelling, but short A, Brahma. Brahma means the soul. The soul in Sanskrit is called Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi. Quite often the scholars and mental speculators, they say Aham Brahmasmi, which Aham means I and Brahmasmi means soul. So I am a soul. Aham Brahmasmi. But the first being in the universe is Brahma, long A. So he's halfway through his life now. So he's like at that, not going up anymore, not going down yet, but in the midlife crisis.
Yep.
Midlife crisis. So like that. But his whole life in our years is 311 trillion Earth years, plus so many billions and millions. So it's a very long life like that. So just like this happening on our bodily scale, this is also happening on the universal scale. But this is because Krishna has entered into the universe, that everything sets into motion. And when Krishna desires, like then Brahma dies, and then everything is annihilated. Then all the souls are withdrawn into the body of Vishnu. When the universe is destroyed, the souls are withdrawn into the body of Vishnu and like a sleeping state called Nidra, Yoga Nidra. You would have heard the term Yoga Nidra. They use it.
Sure have.
In yoga. But so that Yoga Nidra means like the souls go into like a mystical slumber where they're not conscious. Their consciousness is like, temporarily unconscious. And then when Krishna desires another universe to be created, then the souls are injected back into the universe again, and it starts all over again. And that goes on until we surrender to Krishna. We take birth, body after body, and one creation after another creation. So it can be a long time. But we should, as soon as we get the knowledge, we should realize that we should just surrender to Krishna, get out of this cycle of birth and death. But very important, we have to defeat this ignorance that we're thinking that life comes from chemicals, life comes from matter. It doesn't. That's ignorance. That's complete illusion. And that's why Prabhupada attacked the scientists so much, because they're the main ones that are propagating this philosophy, that there's no God in control. These are not his energies. This is only matter. That they don't see that there's a spiritual energy, and they don't see there's a controller of the spiritual energy. They only see the matter. So they know about earth, water, fire, air, and space, and mind, intelligence, and false ego. They know about these things, but they don't know anything about the spirit soul, and they don't know anything about the big soul, the super soul. But that's not a complete understanding, and this is what makes people godless. This is one of the reasons.
Sure.
They say, you don't need to go to God. You don't need to bow down to God to solve any problems. We, the scientists, will manipulate, will control. We're controlling matter. We're controlling this material world. We're controlling the food and controlling the water and controlling the air and space and everything. We'll go to the moon and we'll control space and Mars and, so like that, very proud. And we're thinking that through science that we can control everything. And we don't need God anymore. No need to go to church and pray to God for bread. The scientists, we will give you bread. We will make it in our factory. We will give you bread. But the stupid idiots don't think deeply enough. Okay, yeah, your bread comes from the factory. Okay, your Tip Top or whatever like that. But where did the ingredients come from? Did you create the ingredients? Did you create the wheat? Did you create the water? Did you create the sugar? No, these things were created by God.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So we think, wow, we don't need to go to church anymore to pray for bread. We'll just get it from the scientists. We'll make bread. But yeah, it doesn't work like that. If God gets upset with us and says, well, okay, now I'm going to create a drought and no more water, then it doesn't matter how much seeds you have in the soil. And they've had that happen in Australia, right? Thousands of hectares of wheat, sown it with the tractors, put it in with the tractors, all the wheat, but no rain, a drought, and nothing grows, then no bread, then you're starving. So yeah, it's not the complete picture to say that, everything comes from chemicals. There's no God in control, that we can control everything. We are God, we are powerful. That's an illusion.
But what about the mice and the locusts and that comes and destroys?
Yeah, or even COVID or whatever. One little bug, you can't see it, and it's completely stopped the whole planet.
Yeah.
completely stopped the whole planet. You can't even see it. It's completely defeated everyone. And stopped everyone's movements and work and travels and happiness and frustration and it's so many things. So we have to be, like I said, when it starts with, you have to become humble. The problem is the scientists, artificially proud, thinking that we can control matter and that life comes from matter. So Prabhupada again and again is smashing on this false ideas that life comes from matter, not the spirit, and that we don't need God, that we can control. This is completely ignorance to think like that. Yeah. So just like the soul has to be in this body in order to function, also there has to be a supreme soul in this universal body. This universe, you could look at as a universal body. To keep that functioning, there has to be a universal soul, a big soul. Just like within this tiny body, there has to be a soul there.
Mm.
Food for thought. Thank you very much once again.
Mate, thanks so much for your time. I'll enjoy it. Now, listen, I'll see you next week.
Yes.
Same
Krishna.
time. Okay. You take care. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, and mate, please get better. I hope you're better when you wake up tomorrow morning.
Yes, thank you very much. Blessings.